What is going on, guys? Philip at Trade Genius. Let's get into another Bitcoin update. We're going to talk about this move up that we've recently had and this retrace, and then we're going to dive into the GBTC premiums, the CME gaps, look at some logarithmic levels, and see where we're at. So let's dive into this video and check it out.
Trade Genius.
All right, guys, daily chart. And, again, looking at the big picture, again, between these two fib zones, this price action has been in play between these two fib zones since back in June 2019. So a very long time, basically backfilling this move up. And we'll look at this on the cycle repeat graph, just to kind of check in and on where we're at with that. But backfilling the sudden move up quite nicely and ultimately healthy getting into a bull run here ahead of the halving. So to drill down to what we've seen recently, again, broke this trend line that was keeping us down, broke above it. Remember, we talked about we could see a back test of the trend line from above, and we're seeing that now. We don't necessarily have to touch it. We've actually dipped into levels that we'll look at here in a little bit that are viable levels to have tapped into some liquidity and then bounce the price higher. So we may have seen the lows here on this pullback and we're going to test higher. If we check out the delta graph, so this is looking at whether or not they're buying up the futures on BitMEX. This is the nearest month future, right? And if they are, then we get a bullish coloring. And if they aren't, if they're selling it, then we get a bearish coloring with this pinkish color. So right now, things were looking a little flat as far as the delta goes. So it has been in a short position on the 4-hour chart since January 17th. And price has subsequently gone down. And right now, we're kind of teetering on this coloration here going back to long. On this chart, I want to see 3 bars of the same color before I say sentiment has changed. So right now we're still short, even though we got a blue coloration here. It hasn't overrode the short position that you'd want to be in. So essentially, until this changes, what we're looking for is any retrace back up to these weighted moving averages are going to be faded. High probability that those levels are going to be faded. So currently, we're looking at about 85.44 for the weighted moving average 20, and the weighted moving average 65 is sitting currently at 86.70. So if you want to plot those on your chart, WMA 25 or 20 and 65, you can do that and track how that goes. And then we'll be posting the delta updates in the room. This is a long-term logarithmic growth curve chart. And this basically is giving us, based on the current price action on a logarithmic chart, a curve. I like this because the growth curve starts to kind of mellow out on the log chart, which is, I think, more realistic for Bitcoin's growth spurt. It still would imply that we're going to see very, very, very high valuations after halving. But we'll see how that plays out. Currently, the level I'm looking at is this fib level here. And this fib level is the 9.02 fib level. Okay, and that level's kind of been an interesting level that price has been reacting to. So once we clear that level, then I want to see us run up, and we're going to fill that CME gap up over $11,000. So currently this level here, we've come up and actually just almost touched it, but this level is this 94.4835. So as we move up into over the 200 period moving average on the daily, that's the level. The first level I want to see is this 94.48. I want to see how price reacts to that level as we move up. Okay, then after that, I'm going to be looking at this next level, which is this 11,441. Okay, that's going to be up in that area where that CME gap is left unfilled. We're going to get to the CME gap, but first, looking at the GBTC premium. Again, guys, this is a very low premium for GBTC. The market usually wants to pay more for this. And so, again, if you were to tell me that this close to having the premiums on GBTC would be dipping this low on a pullback in Bitcoin, I would be saying that's a big time green light for a buy. Now, typically when GBTC does dip into this range, okay, this green band, when they're prolonged like this one was 11 days, this one was 8 days. We're at day 9 here on this one. So what we're looking for essentially is that this is a time period that we should start seeing the premium spike up. Okay, and usually what happens is it resolves with a pretty quick spike up, back out of the green pretty quickly. And generally speaking, there is a Bitcoin move to the upside that goes along with that within a day or two. So that's going to be a big confirmation move if you see that on the GBTC premium, and we'll be updating this in the room as well. All right, guys, CME futures. Okay, so now I've been hearing or being asked about the gap in the 7,000s. Here is what I think everyone is looking at. And this gap here isn't one that I'm looking as like a huge magnet for price, only because if you look at it, first of all, the low of this candle, right, almost gets to the high of this candle. So the high of this candle is 76.75. The low of this candle is 78.20. So you have I'm sorry, 7,700 is the low there, and the high is 76.75. So you're talking about a $25 difference. So if you look on a first thing I do is I go, do I see it on the daily chart? Okay, that's number one. And if I don't see it on a daily chart, so here it is on the daily chart. I mean, that's a very, very small gap. And the next thing I do is, do I see it in higher time frames? The 2-day looks the same as the 1-day. 3-day, it's gone altogether. And so those are the things I look at when looking at these gaps for a gap fill. That one is so tight, such a small discrepancy of about $25 that it's not one that I would be looking for as a price magnet. I think that's close enough, and that's happened before. We've had these very small, tiny gaps like that have been left behind much slower. And they're not the ones that I'm looking for. The ones that I look for, guys, that are going to attract price relatively soon, within the next, a week or so, are these types here that we have, where you've got the gap between 87.66 and 88.67. That kind of price action gap is what I'm looking to see filled. So with that in mind, the last gap we have to fill is this one up here at 11,795. That is the last gap that I'm looking to have filled right up in this from this price action here. So I think ultimately that's the target for this halving move to the upside. If it gets over that, then that's probably going to exceed my expectations pre-halving wise. But I think that's a realistic target between now and May 2020 to kind of reclaim that level again. All right, guys. So, again, we're bouncing. Delta is saying that we should expect some rejection off these moving averages. We tapped into this level. If you notice, price dipped down to this level here. So what I was looking at was where price rejects and comes off of the price rise. And this was the last green candle. I like to look at those levels. So around that 83.20 mark, and we dipped right into those levels, those old levels, and bounced. And or what we've done since we slipped down in here is we've kind of backfilled the void in here with the volume, and so that's healthy to do. So now we're going to see, I expect this bounce. I would not be surprised to see this bounce up back into the 8,500s there, and how that reacts and whether Delta flips back to bullish is what I'm going to be keying on for the next couple of days. So there you have it. Price doing kind of what we expected, now expecting a bounce up, and we'll see what happens when we hit these upper levels. All right, guys, that's it for this edition. I appreciate you guys watching our videos. Please hit like and subscribe. I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.
Trade Genius.